Part 2, reading leftovers. Greetings from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. I'm laughing because we got cut off just as I was being silly about not being able to have what I want out of life and manifesting a beautiful man. And then I went all silly about muffled muffs that are miffed. Some kind of weird alliteration. Just one of my little brain fries, don't mind me. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. I'm doubling down on that because it's hilarious. But anyway, just at that moment of nonsense and absurdism and sheer mischief, my laptop chopped us off. So I'm back from outer space with this look upon my face. Sorry, not sorry. Just delightfully bemused. Carry on, people of Earth. We're carrying on. I love all my friends, by the way. The unattainable and the unavailable ones, as well as, my loyal, loving, long-term friends who've put up with my funny little ways for some of them 50 years. Margaret in Melbourne, we've known each other for 50 years. Lynn in New Zealand, I met her when I was 4 years old, and I'm almost 60 now. So what's that? 56 years, although we haven't had any contact with each other for a long time. But still a friend out there, across the Tasman Sea. Anyway, we got chopped off at God wondering if he was really to blame for, I don't know, we were past that point. We were up to the point where God was thinking about whether he had turned leftovers into a monster by breathing life into him while craving sizzling sausages. So we'll continue from the beginning of there. I can't remember exactly where the line where we got chopped. So we'll start from the beginning, the top of the paragraph, people of Earth. God sat on a stone thinking, what could he do? Leftovers was right. God shouldn't have made him so carelessly. He should never have let that little bit of thundercloud get into him, for one thing. But where had that hunger come from? Because that was the dreadful part of the hunger. No, stop while you're ahead, Tanya. You've already made a fool of yourself on YouTube in part 1. Stop while you're ahead. Never mind. Never mind, I said. Stop it. So I have to rein myself back in sometimes too. Quite funny. But I'm the only one that probably gets the joke why it's funny, so I can't help you people of Earth. You have to just wait and see what the good Lord manifests for me in his own sweet timing. He's a jealous God that won't let me have just anyone, you understand. There's been too much monsters over the decades, so he certainly won't allow any more of that. No more monsters allowed. Only the most beautiful, loving, sincere, heartfelt, devoted, joyous, sexy, passionate man for me, loyal and faithful to me and me only. Manifestations, people. Manifestations, not man infestations of festy men. So we've done that scene. We did that scene. Wasn't nice. Wasn't nice, people of it. I'm hungry. I'm starving. I'm starving for a truly good and noble and honouring and loving man that's meant for me. And I'm old now, so it's a bit ridiculous, actually. To be fair, it is a bit ridiculous. But my crazy verkachte evil mother got married at 73, albeit to a con man, but she was demented, so she thought she was happy. I hope that's not going to be my fate too. Well, I won't get married to a con man because I've got nothing for them to con out of me, but grateful for small little blessings, I guess. But no more fake lovers. Oh dear Goddess, please, no more fake lovers. I really couldn't take it. I've just gone through an entire cyclone alone, so why would I need anyone really anyway? Certainly someone that's not actually there for me. Ridiculous. I even had a nightmare last night about being on a houseboat type barge and fighting with these people in a cyclone to be on my barge, and in the dream I was trying to keep them all safe. And I woke up from the dream and said, are you out of your mind? No one keeps you safe. You had to fight for yourself with an actual box trailer across the road from yourself. No one fought for me. Energex did, but that's because to protect their assets and the risk of being sued. But no one stood by me and fought for me. It's outrageous. So I'm even having nightmares now trying to keep other people safe. When really it's me that needs nurturing and loving and protecting and being kept safe and cared for and loved. Did I mention loved? It's ridiculous, people. So yes, I'll just allow my muff to be miffed for a while and laugh in the face of catastrophe, other people's, and soldier on as I've done every day for my almost 60 years. I've got to think what I'm going to do to celebrate my birthday this year. I have to think of something really spectacular for myself, and don't ever want to be let down again. It's awful, awful. Anyway, what can I do? There won't be much food probably still in the shops in a month's time, so I might get back to normal in a month's time. Let's see. I wonder what I can do to celebrate 60 years on this planet, alone, struggling for the love of all the gods. Anyway, here we go. The dreadful part was the hunger. As he sat there thinking, man came strolling up. There's a very easy answer to your problem, said man. There's a reward, said God, for the right answer. Listen to this, said man. Leftovers is bitter because you made him of rubbish. Isn't that true? He's taking his revenge on your creation, killing the animals. So it seems, said God. Pardon me. So all you need to do, said man, is make him king of the animals. God gave a little laugh. I can't do it, but raised one eyebrow. I know. A king has to protect his subjects, doesn't he? Said man. Instead of being rubbish and outcast on the earth. Sounds a bit like me, doesn't it? Well, I'm queen of my own destiny now too. He'll be king. He'll be your representative over the animals. He'll become good. He'll stop being bitter. He'll feel so good, he won't need to take any more revenge. it will change him. What about that hunger of his? Asked God. Will that change too? Oh, that, said Man. Well, you could always feed him on your sausages. God liked this idea. He called all the animals together and explained his plan, but all they did was stare at him, saying nothing. None of them trusted Leftovers. We'll put a crown on him now while he's asleep, explained God, and when he wakes up, you will kneel and say, Greetings, O King, and you, Hyena, will say, And here, O your mighty majesty, are God's own sausages for your royal breakfast. I'll supply some, then while he's eating I'll come by and talk to him. The animals looked fearful. What if he doesn't believe us? Bleated a sheep. If the crown's on his head and the sausages are there sizzling and you all act your parts, he'll believe it, said God. They all thought hard how they would act, but they still weren't sure. Then the fox cried, King Leftovers doesn't sound right. That name Leftovers will remind him. That will set his thunder rolling. That will bring the lightning out of the ends of his great paws. He needs a new name. God thought. He didn't like wasting anything. If we knock a few letters out of his name, we could call him Love. No, bellowed the wild bull. He's a convicted murderer, remember? I do not forget the past. You're letting him get away with it. I'm having nothing to do with this. And he plunged away into the dense thorns. Very well, said God. How about Leo? So they agreed. And God produced a crown from his treasury in heaven. It was actually a small-scale model of the zodiac. The sausages were prepared, and when Leftovers awoke, he was greeted by all the animals kneeling and touching the ground with their foreheads. Greetings, O mighty King, they cried. Greetings, O mighty King Leo. And Hyena crawled forward, pushing a huge plate of hot sausages in front of him. O mighty King Leo, he chanted. O representative of God among the animals, here is your royal breakfast, hot from heaven. Leftovers looked around. He was puzzled, but there was no denying the sausages, and now he saw them. He knew they were exactly what he had always wanted. And as he tasted the first, he closed his eyes in bliss. This was the taste he was always searching for. Heavenly sausages. Hyena spoke. Your Majesty, you have forgotten to hand your crown to me. Crown? Asked Leftovers. While you eat your royal breakfast? I always polish your royal crown, given to you by God, said Hyena. Then Leftovers noticed the weight on his head. He took off the crown and gazed at the shining gold and at the jewels in 7 different colours. He pretended not to be surprised as he handed it to Hyena, who began to polish it with his little tail. "Of course," said Leftovers. "It slipped my mind." "Blessings on His Mighty Majesty King Leo," yelled a baboon. And all the animals in one great voice shouted, "Blessings on His Mighty Majesty King Leo." And the elephant stood in a row and blew a majestic fanfare as Leftovers ate his sausages. As he ate, he thought, "Am I me or am I Leftovers?" But he couldn't answer. He really couldn't tell. "It seems," he thought, "that I dreamed. I was a ragged, nasty creature, roaming about in the thorns, murdering my subjects and eating them." He shuddered with horror and picked up another sausage. And as he munched, he thought, "This is the life." At that moment, God came strolling by. "Good morning, King Leo," God greeted him. "How is the kingdom of the animals? Is everybody happy?" "Indeed," said King Leo, speaking in a slow, dignified way, "my subjects are all happy." "It must be thanks to your care," said God. "Everything depends on you. You are my representative here on earth among the animals. I have complete faith in you." Then he added, "I'm just on my way to the kingdom of the insects, where Stag Beetle is king. Like you, he is a perfect king, brave, wise, generous, tireless, and kind." God raised his hand in salute and was just about to disappear into the roots of a clump of grass when King Leo said, "By the way, God, I had a strange dream." "What was it?" asked God. "Perhaps I can tell you what it means." "I dreamed I was an outlaw, very dirty and ragged. I was murdering the animals and eating them with a truly horrible hunger. I was called Leftovers." "What does it mean?" God laughed. "That is easy. Dreams are memories of a former life. That was the life in which you got everything wrong. Now, as you see, you are getting everything right. Isn't it so?" "It is," said King Leo, puzzled. "Yes, it is. I do seem to be getting everything right." God raised his hand again, smiled and vanished into the grass roots. Hyena handed King Leo his crown. "It is time now," said Hyena, "for your Majesty to choose. Will you be carried through your kingdom on elephant's back, or will you sleep?" "Of course," said King Leo. He felt sleepy after the sausages, so there and then he closed his eyes and slept. At that moment, all the animals breathed a sigh of relief. They got up off their knees and started doing what they usually did, playing and feeding, all except the wild bull. Now the wild bull stepped from the thorns. He stepped from the thorns, and the sun glistened on his blue-black body. There at the edge of the thorns, he levelled his nose like a black stumpy cannon and sniffed with his great black nostrils. His tail rose in the air and twirled its tassel. He was remembering his wife. He groaned softly and his dewlap trembled. It seemed to him the murderer had been rewarded too well. He dragged his right hoof backward through the stony earth and flung gravel up over his flank and back. Was King Leo going to be king forever, feasting on sausages, bowed to by all the animals, wearing a crown that looked like the starry heavens? He groaned louder, with a weird, hollow, booming sound, and flung more earth over his back. He glared at his enemy and the empty plate. This was not justice. To make a murderer king, this was not justice. The wild bull stepped forward slowly till he stood right over the shaggy, sleeping king. His moment had come. With a flick of his horns, he tossed the crown into a swamp where a water snake grabbed it and sank out of sight with it, leaving a bubble. Then he put his horns under the king and with one jerk tossed him into the top of a thorn tree, a big, strong-trunked thorn tree of 10 million thorns. "Leftovers," he thundered. "Leftovers! You have not paid for my wife, but now you shall pay." Leftovers woke up, falling through the thorns which raked his body and clawed his face. But he did not hit the ground. He fell smack onto the wild bull's horns, who hurled him up again, back into the top of the thorn tree. "Leftovers," bellowed the wild bull. "I am God's judge, and Judgment Day has come." And again the torn and bleeding king fell through the dreadful tree, and again he fell on to the waiting horns, and it was as if he'd fallen onto a trampoline. Up he went again, higher than ever, turning in the air, his legs outflung, as if he were no bigger than a rabbit. And the wild bull gazed up, his eyes flaming with joyful fury. But as he came down through the whipping and slashing thorns for the third time, Leftovers grabbed the trunk and hung there. Was he awake or asleep? He shook his dazzled head. Where was his crown? Where was his kingdom and his subjects and his sausages? Where was God? And there, clinging for dear life halfway up a thorn tree, above a demented wild bull. He knew he was leftovers. And the rest was a dream. The crown, the sausages, the hyena, the fanfare of elephants, God, all were a dream. But this was real. This real wild bull was the real husband of the real wild cow he had really had killed and eaten. And these were real thorns. He roared an enraged clap of thunder, and down below him the wild bull tore up the earth with his hooves, and he too bellowed thunder. God crouched in the grass clump, peering out between the fibres of the roots. All my fault, he was muttering. All my fault, as he tried to think what to do. But then the wild bull charged the tree. There came a crack. The earth jumped, and the whole tree blurred. In a shower of thorns, leftovers dropped onto the wild bull's back, biting and clawing. The wild bull rolled over, but leftovers sprang away, and with one bound he was gone into the high grass, where the elephants too were hiding from the uproar with their trunks curled into their mouths. The wild bull stormed and trampled in circles, hunting for leftovers, tearing up small trees and bushes, till finally he stood panting, letting his red eyes slowly darken to a bright, burning black. That was the end of King Leo's reign. And now leftovers roams the land as before, hungry as before, terrible as before. But he keeps out of the way of the wild bull, because the wild bull is ready for him, always snuffing for him, always alert. And just as before, all the animals go in fear of leftovers' unrolling carpet of thunder and his thunderbolt leap. What can God do? He knows his trick would not work a second time, but it nearly had worked. If the wild bull had not burst out of the thorns, it might have worked. And so when leftovers walks along the skyline at evening, when the sky flames red, God listens sadly. And all the animals listen too, as leftovers thunder rolls away across the plains and crumbles against the surrounding wall of sky. King Leo, shouts Hyena, and laughs. And man, too, listens in his house. It seems to him that leftovers as thunder is a sad sound. Peal after peal of thunder, shorter and shorter, ending in a few grunty coughs. Man can tell that leftovers is remembering his dream of being king, his dream of being wise, generous, kind, and beloved by all. Was it a dream, says the first roll of thunder, or was it real, says the second? Or is this a dream now, says the third? Or is this real, says the fourth? And then, a very fierce, as if he could hardly bear it, was that a dream, and is this real? And after a pause, or was that real, and is this a dream? Then, shorter and shorter, which is it? Which is it? And shorter and shorter and shorter. Which? 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 Then in the silence, leftovers frowns over the lump of sun behind his eyebrows, and he lowers his head and half opens his mouth to cool the hunger of God that urges him forward. And here he is, roaming through the thunder and the storms of life. The next story is called, it's quite a long one too. I might just go and grab a glass of water because my throat